Oh, so he's heard this?
Yeah, he's heard this. Um, these type of cans, he said, tend to open up. And he also mentioned that it's probably a good idea to do this with newer, like freshly tinned blends, not super aged ones, because this is sort of accelerating the age, sort of. And by doing that to an aged can, you're not really accomplishing anything.
So, I mean, what is the baking doing?
Good question. The baking is going to basically mellow the Virginias out.
Okay.
Whereas some Virginias, a lot of them actually tend to be tangy and tart, especially when they're fresh, newer tinnings. And his
What about
actually,
these things that got plastic lids on them and cardboard sides are not tins, they're the...
yeah, you don't want to do that. He specifically said a metal can with a good seal. The flat ones will open up. He said these typically don't. He said he's had one or two explode in the oven, but that's pretty rare.
I guess you can smell it, probably the seal room.
Yeah, and that's the thing. After about an hour and a half, I smelled it, and it smelled like if you've ever made or cooked an English plum pudding at Christmas time. That's what it smelled like. My wife was like, "Wow, that smells really great," and it did. It smelled fantastic when it was baking, and sort of
So
like
you could smell something even though the tin's sealed?
yeah, actually, it came open.
Oh,
It did pop, but it didn't like
How long were you
explode
baking
or
it for?
anything. I went 180 degrees at about 4 hours. It may have been a little bit longer than that. At one point, I had to turn it off and leave and come back and turn it on again. So about 4 hours, 180 degrees, maybe a little longer. And what you can see here, first of all, the obvious thing,
Oh, a lot darker.
okay, tremendously darker.
Which one's which?
Baked, not baked. So tremendously darker.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The oils and things in the Virginia, I suppose, have intensified, sort of melded more with the blend. I found that the little paper liner that sometimes gets really saturated over time really didn't soak up much of it.
Can you smell the difference between those two?
Well, yes, you can. And I want everybody to really inspect it and look at it. Feel free to try both blends. Thanks to Monty for bringing this one, the unbaked one. Feel free to smoke one or both.
Yeah.
And compare and contrast, as they said in high school.
Yeah.
And I smoked a bowl the next day.
I can smell the difference.
Since it was already open, I went ahead and smoked the bowl the next day instead of waiting for 48 hours because it had already opened up, and I thought, what the hell,
This smells like
It
pudding and then fresh bread too.
it does. It has a very kind of
The other one,
baking smell.
I can smell I guess it's the fruit. I'm smelling,
This one seems to have a stronger,
that's got more of the fruity
the baked one.
note
Different.
to it.
Yeah,
That
it's
one's got more like the stove Virginia smell to it.
it has more of a definitely like a baked bakery type of thing going on. I think probably the Perique has something to do with that. The new one smells to me more harsh and acidic smelling, like not citrusy, but more along
Just the
those lines.
Eskimo
It's
itself.
stronger, a little harsher on the nasal cavity.
Now, would this have a freak in it? Was he saying that any blend of tobacco, was he looking at straight Virginias or?
Anything with Virginia in it. He didn't really go into a lot of detail about, vapors and straight, he did say English blends tend to not really do much unless they have a high concentration of Virginias. It seems to me that most of the benefit would be out of Virginias and variations of Virginias. The Perique in this I thought would be kind of a cool thing because that has such a definite hardcore taste and smoking reaction to begin with. It's like, wow, I wonder what the heat would do to that over time. So, my overall take on it was that it was very much a mellow blend after baking versus beforehand, and the nicotine level was maybe even a little less than the other, though it still affected me in that way,
So
and that's
did you-
why I didn't care for it.
Was that an unopened tin that you had?
Yes, about a year
But you-
and a half.
Okay, but you've been able to smoke like a fresh, open tin to compare it to?
I have before, and I remember that I didn't really care for it. Because it
Okay,
was a
so you
little
can try it
harsh.
tonight, kind of compare.
And when I smoked it the other day, I was like, wow, this is very different. You know, it was very flavorful. It was just more, again, it was less of the harsh, acidic, tangy taste that I was getting out of the other. Everybody's going to have their own opinion on that. So please, try it. Let's talk about it some more
Did he
later.
mention anything about if you got, one of these tins that are like this, or something that isn't made out of metal, to put your tobacco into some other container and then bake it? Or once you bust the seal?
Somebody
then-
asked him that, and he didn't suggest it because it would tend to dry out.
Okay.
That the seal helps to keep it from drying out, which you don't really, unless you really like that, you don't necessarily want to do that.
Right.
So he strictly suggests doing it with the seal tins. So I encourage you to get that book. It's a pretty good read. I've only read about half of it so far, but it's not a bad read.
But it'll work with these type of
I'll bring it
tins?
in. I forgot.
I mean, it'll work with these type?
He prefers that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, versus the flat.
What is that, red?
Well, I mean, it's just that
It's just
style.
those. It's with this
Yeah,
type
those
of
type
top.
of pop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that can be the tall can or the 4 ounce or the 2 ounce version. Yeah, it doesn't matter. He said these work, but they will come open typically because.
Well,
of
that
the
makes
type of
sense, because
seal.
really, those are one piece.
And he did say
Until
that
they're
if you do it
broken.
to an aromatic, it's pretty much, it doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything. If it smells like apple pie or whatever, then it's apple.
Strawberry
Smell
or
like burnt apple pie.
Yeah. So,
Hey, Bob.
there he is.
Hang on, Bob, I'll get you.